Publishing, where we discuss the secrets of Edward Lee Scanlon's Coral Castle, how it pertains to the biblical narrative, the periodic table, DNA, and the zodiac. All right, today we're going to get into, been listening to social media these days, and they're talking about people are finally realizing the city of AI in, let's see, I think it's Joshua chapter 8. So we'll discuss Joshua chapter 8 and Genesis chapter 4, verse 22. So you'll notice one's an 8, the other is a 4, and then you got verse 22. Isn't that interesting? I always say pay attention to the scriptures. And this is also how I know when people say, oh, this esoteric order with great global power and reach wrote the Bible. Baloney. There is no way. Because scripture, and the other thing is I grew up Roman Catholic, so I can talk all I want. I don't want to hear anything from you Roman Catholics. Just zip your lip, because I know all about it. I went to an all Catholic, all boys Catholic school. Don't talk to me. Put in my time. And they are like, oh, the King James Version Bible has 66 books. Oh, that's of the devil, because they don't understand 666 is the mark of all men. But anyway, I digress. We already went down that road. Don't need to cover it again. But these scriptures eerily line up with a lot of the subject matter. And I tell you about the North Pole of the Earth spinning counterclockwise and the South Pole spinning clockwise, and the equator being very mysterious. So we come to the character of Lamech. And you'll notice, like I say, that if there's a good Abraham, there has to be a bad version of Abraham. Who was that? Let me think. It's Lamech. So you got Christianity and Judaism here. What are you going to have? You're going to have Islam arise. There's always a counter movement to this over here. The universe is going to balance itself. And you'll notice they use this in movies like Gandalf says to Frodo, hey, let's not be too hasty about this Gollum character because he could end up being, in the end, something that we need. And ends up Gollum by grabbing the ring and Frodo pushing him off. That's how the ring was able to get into the fire. Frodo kept trying to grab the thing and run and control the world. So you see this in movies. It comes up in movie scripts. It comes up in books. It comes up in your life. The things that you think are plaguing you that God put there to keep you honest. Because if they weren't there, you'd be the biggest scumbag on the planet. I remember when Michael Bolton was, all women were screaming about Michael Bolton. And my friend said, this guy's so lifted up. And I said, lifted up? I've heard him speak. I've heard him talk. He's pretty humble. And then I said to my friend, who was chain smoking Marlboros, I go, if you had Michael Bolton's girl attraction prowess right now, think of how big of a douche you would be. And he laughed. He's like, you got me there. It's true. But these forces are here. These thorns in your side are here for a reason. Don't want to go down that road. We're here to talk about the antithesis, this to this. Or North Pole to South Pole. You see the God Adam, Eve, evil, Shiva, devil, Devi, demon. I could go on and on. Jinn, D-J-I-N. They're all from the South Pole. And does that mean everybody up here is doing hunky-dory good? No, you got ego up here and you got hypergamy down here. Neither one of them gives a shit about you. That's true. When people get into these upper levels, they forget where they came from. And God sometimes knocks them down. And then they go, oh, geez, I made God mad. Yeah, you did. You can't be God. God allowed you in, but now you're lifted up. You're just like Lucifer. Luckily for us, God's in the forgiveness business, and God knocks us from the Holy of Holies down into the holy place. And hopefully you'll pull your head out of your rear end at that juncture, because I got knocked all the way back to start. Okay, I don't want to talk about it. I got the Nebuchadnezzar treatment. Down on all fours, eating grass like an ox. I think I've covered that in one of my other videos. But anyway, you'll notice this Zillah wife, okay? You had Ada and Zillah, all right? It's kind of difficult to explain them because one is an A, that's King A who has a uterus, but the Z is also an N. So one of them has to represent, Ada and Zillah have to represent north and south, but technically they represent east-west because they're female, and this is just the way it goes. Eve was technically one of the only women, if not the only woman, to have the south position. All other women tend to be the left and the right, the Rachel versus Leah. And that's where this Ada Zillah gets in, and this is what took me so long to figure this out. It was very difficult. I'm giving this stuff to you. I'm spoon feeding it to you. Man, to figure out that, don't make me grab that gyroscope, but to figure out that this east-west temple is also north-south and west-east instead of east-west, and instead of north-south, it was south-north. That's when I realized, oh, it spins up like a gyro. Duh! And, that's your XY axis that they attribute to Rene Descartes. Don't want to get into it. But anyway, this Zillah produces two-ball cane, right? Sound familiar? It's got the name Cain in it, right? So not only do you end up with Adam and Eve's Cain, who was kind of a screw-up, right? Got the boot out of the garden further than Adam and Eve already got the boot. But he's got an extra moniker to his name, an extra prefix, Tubal Cain. And this has to do with, I told you that the missing elements in the periodic table is technetium, element 43, and 61 is promethium. These are the two olive trees that stand in the temple when John sees Jesus in the temple during the Revelation. And other people described the two olive trees before. This is Enoch, who represents when Neptune was running the show in the solar arrangement, and then Elijah. These two men were taken out of the planet. That's why those two elements don't exist naturally. And you see the TC, technetium, Tubal Cain, you think they have something to do with one another? I do. Whenever you see something like that, you say, that's kind of weird. No, it's more than just weird. It probably is connected. And it took me years to get my comfort zone to where I felt comfortable going, I'm going to make that leap. Because a lot of people say, oh, I could never do that. I have to go to my pastor. I don't know if that's doctrinal. Yeah, good luck. Because they don't even know. Because they're scared. I'm scared. I don't want to make God mad. You're never going to get anything done. Polishing a church pew with your ass. You can stay in the holy place, or you can get into the Holy of Holies and just say, okay, I'm good. I'll stop. And you know what? You'll never really truly find yourself. Right? And that's how I ended up getting kicked all the way back down, because I had faith. I did the same prayer that Jacob did when he said, God, if you bring me back to my father's house, you will be my God. I made that prayer multiple times. And I stepped out like Peter off the boat when everyone's like, oh, don't do this and don't do that. Step on a crack, break your brother's back, break your mother's back. I said, you know what? Screw these guys. They're yelling, oh, it's not Jesus, it's a ghost. I'm like, hey, whoa, time out. Lord, is that you? It's me. Come on out. The water's fine. Yeah, and you get in trouble. You go up to your neck. You're about to go under, and God reaches down. And I said, you know what? I think I'd be good at that. Because I went in the military. I was good at getting myself in a lot of hot water. I joined the IBEW, became an overhead lineman. All right? I'm up in the top 10% of men who took on trades, right, where it's life or death. Iron workers, offshore oil workers, onshore oil rig workers, roughnecks. I could go on and on and on. There's even laborers that do extremely dangerous jobs. I worked with laborers who were equipment operators. They're the best I've ever met. Okay, so I don't want to hear no shit about laborers, because I've met some that they worked with the IBEW and they were phenomenal. But let's go on to this, what's his name? Tubal Cain. He was what? An instructor of every artificer. Remember, there's AI and there's IA. And this gets into that other scripture I told you in Joshua chapter 8. They took the city of Ai. Now, Ai is your heart, right? It's your altar of incense, or your incensed altar, where you get angry. And then you start producing testosterone and your balls start pumping like two pistons. Your Harley, your V-twin starts acting up. And you got to get that under control. Okay? So this heart has AI on one side and IA on the other. Technically, it's the I's are in the middle and the A's are on the outside. All right? But it can work other ways. I'm not saying that's the only way, because I'm open to a lot of things now. I used to say, oh, no, it has to be this one way, because that's the way these hammerhead Christian pastors train you to be, so that you don't ask questions. All right, I don't want to get on that road. But anyway, so you'll polish a church pew with your ass and pay them tithe. So, and then not ever find yourself. So this character, he's connected to this city that the ancient Hebrews had to take over. They had to attack this city, the city of Ai. All right, and this has to do with when you're converting from a selfish lifestyle and you finally find God. Okay, God has to take over all these different sections of your body. Okay, he has to get you to stop thinking with your dick and balls or your vagina and your ovaries. He has to get you thinking with your heart-brain connection, here to here, and stop thinking here to here. And the way the Jews were progressing in their battle plan was of such. So do you think that Jericho has something to do with your groin? Because that was the city they took previous to Ai? I do. So, and I've already talked about the J and the Y. The J is the letter representation of a penis. Okay, if you follow, I love that show, America Unearthed. Scott Walther talks about the cross J or whatever, this little symbol that nobody seems to know what it is. That's what it is. It's clearly what it is. It represents your donkey. All right? It's a male version of it. Okay? And that's where Jacob the supplanter comes from. And that's why Jacob's name changed from Jacob to Jacob with a Y. Okay? And then it changed later to Israel. You guys getting this? He went from male to female to up here in the eye, your all-seeing eye, your pineal gland. Started using his brain. Okay, he went from here to heart to brain. That's how Adam and Eve got saved. God had to provide the sacrifice for them. They started out where Lucifer ended up, outside the temple, where lithium, beryllium, and hydrogen-1 protium, where hydrogen-1, that's Lucifer, who fell, Satan. And all those alkali earth metals are the third that fell with Lucifer. Okay? So Lucifer started up here in the Holy of Holies, got lifted up in pride and got kicked down into the holy place. Got kicked out of the holy place with the 1/3 of the angel messengers and ended up down here in the groin. Adam and Eve went the other way. Guys, this is not hard. You're making it way harder than it is. Satan was leaving the temple. Adam and Eve were entering the temple. Nobody could understand in the world of elemental beings, why does God have this soft spot for carbon? Because we're so pathetic. It's his plaything. Okay, but Lucifer cannot die. It's hydrogen. Okay? And this is why people say, oh, hydrogen's God, cleverly veiled. No, he's not. Hydrogen and God are separate things. Okay, but that hydrogen has a special unction where it isn't like flesh. Okay? Carbon also is a great bond. Carbon makes steel strong. Carbon purifies water. Carbon pressed under pressure without measure turns to diamond. It has these qualities that God's like, I like that. This thing is a team player. Okay? All hydrogen is an element that's gimme, 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 need. I got to attach myself. Oh, I got to join a cause. Oh, I got to join this esoteric order. I can't stand on my own 2 feet. I'm a little baby. I got to join this church organization and never grow. Gimme, gimme, gimme. Women have this naturally because they have the nesting instinct. They have to do that to make the baby. But they take it over the top. Typical women, and I'll get into this. Okay, why they just lose their marbles, and it goes from building the nest to just, J. Paul Getty. How much is enough, J. Paul? Mark Wahlberg in the movie about his grandson or nephew getting kidnapped. I think it was his grandson. Mark Wahlberg says, J. Paul, how much is enough? I want more. Give me more. That is the mind virus. Okay, when people start accumulating things, now they go, well, I want to accumulate it on an exponential scale. And there's a right way to do that, and there's a wrong way to do that. I'm not knocking that system, but you start heading towards trying to think like God and be like God, you're going to get knocked down. But anyway, we're going off on a tangent. So you'll notice one is an instructor of every artificer. That's a very female quality. Did you know that? Yeah, women will try to tell a guy who's a very skilled worker how to do his job. Don't believe me? Become a contractor and you'll agree on how to build a bathroom. And as soon as you get halfway through it, you won't even get halfway into it. And that woman will be henpecking her husband to go in and start, micromanaging things. My brother-in-law was one of the greatest contractors that ever lived. He used to pack his tools up, and they go, where you going? And he'd go, hey, you agreed to this right here? Now you're changing that? Yeah, I'm out of here. You need to go hire somebody else. And he has literally closed that door to their home and not gone back. And not just him. He had an old Italian guy, carpenter, greatest in the city. And they would both pack their lunch, pack their tools, and they'd say, have a nice day. So this is an instructor of every artificer. God, Jesus, Rabboni, teacher, master, is an artificer of every instructor. That is somebody who can take the greatest talent on the planet and get it going in the right direction. That takes skill. I was telling somebody recently who's thinking of joining the military, I said, the lieutenants are going to get ragged on really bad. They really get on the lower ranking O1s and O2s. And officers don't really get a break until they hit captain. That's in the Army. You got second lieutenant, believe it or not, is the first one. It's the first rank. That's O1. And then you got O2, which is first lieutenant. Doesn't make any sense to me. But it's their system. One is a gold bar. You would think, oh, that's more precious than silver. But it doesn't work that way. But anyway, the gold bar, they call them butter bar. I'm wrong. I misspoke. Second lieutenant. The first lieutenant is technically the second. Guys, I'm sorry. But this is how bad the military screws things up. And I understand why they do it. But that one just sends me for a loop every time. But anyway, the young butter bar lieutenant gets hammered from all directions. And some are really good at dealing with it, and others just fail miserably. And but anyway, they get handed the platoon, and that platoon is a mess. It's a rabble of tough guys, imbeciles, simps, leaders, potential great NCOs. You get dealt a hand, and you're never going to get a king, queen, jack, or an ace. You're getting all the jokers. You're getting all the twos. And you have to turn that hog's ear into a silk purse. It's not an easy job. But God is the ultimate artificer of instructors. And when I was in Germany in 1983, 84, we did some really good things. So we were rewarded with, we had two choices: work with the French Foreign Legion or the 10th Special Forces Group, and we chose 10th Group. And we heard back from the Marine unit that chose to go with FFL. And I found out later that is a really good course. And they teach you a lot of very good practical skills. And those Marines scored the highest of any U.S. Army Europe unit that ever went. And that's hard to believe. But that is the word we got back, is this Marine unit went there and they were told by their leader, whoever he was, he said, listen, if they hear us arguing and fighting, they're going to, you start at 1,000 points and you work your way down. 700 or less is a fail. I'm pretty sure they use that same exact system as the Green Berets. So they deduct points for all this chaos. So he said, if any one of you, I don't care, the lowest, dumbest one of you has an issue tying his bootlaces, I want two of you to come over and help that man without speaking. And this is supposedly how they did it. The French Foreign Legion looked at these guys and they never said a word. They just rushed to each other's assistance. And don't ask me, I found out about that by a guy who went high up into, he was going to boards. And boards are when they question you and you go to different levels of boards. And I think it was called the Sergeant Garcia boards. Don't quote me on that. He supposedly scored the highest ever in the history of the U.S. Army. So they named it after him. It's a Latino name. It's like Garcia or something. And this guy made it to the USERA level. And that's how he found out about it. And he came back and told us, hey, you want to hear about the guys who went to the FFL? You guys went this way. They went that way. And I was like, wow, that's very interesting. And so anyway, instructor of every artificer versus artificer of every instructor. Okay? That is how these Marines approached the problem. They became artists of instruction. Guys, I cannot stress to you, if you're in a union, they always gave me the apprentice. And at first I thought it was an insult. And then I realized nobody can train these guys. They're all imbeciles. They don't have the patience to take the new guy and give them the basics. And they knew that I was really good at teaching the basics. They knew I would not let up until they knew how to tie a bowline, a clove hitch, a square knot, you name it. The first thing I taught these guys, and one girl, was rope knot tying. So when it comes to this AIIA, you can see it today in artificial intelligence. And the reason these movies you watch, AI is always trying to kill us. If you follow the recent interview with Carlson, can't think of his first name, but he interviewed Alex Jones, and Alex Jones talked about the people that are tripping on DMT. The Clockwork Elves always tell these people on these acid trips or DMT trips or ayahuasca trips the same thing. There's too many humans, you got to kill them. So why do you think these people come down off their trip? And these are very wealthy, powerful people. They're tech billionaires, Hollywood billionaires. Oh, I got to make this movie about taking out all these people. I got to talk about Skynet and the Terminators. And all these movies have the same eerie theme. All right. So anyway, that is the AI, what do you call it? Artificial intelligence layer of the onion. This also has to do with, it talks about instructor in brass and iron. Now you're getting into astronomy, not astrology. We don't believe that here. Astronomy, how it applies on that layer of the onion, and also in electronics. Brass and iron. Where do you find them? In transformers. Got the copper coil, right? Around what? An iron core. So if you make a conductor out of steel, which a lot of your ground's up in the air, if you look at the wires up there, they call them messenger wires. Those are part of the grounding system. They're steel, okay? And they're not a very good conductor, but they do okay as a shielding for a lightning strike. They do their job. And if you were to make them out of the proper materials, you'd probably blow that conductor to pieces. So the steel tends to dissipate it wildly. And there's still damage, believe me. But when you get into electronics and transformers, that instructor of every artificer in brass and iron, that is talking about this thing determines the amps and the volts that you can put through this type of conductor. Whether you make the conductor out of aluminum, brass, which is copper, zinc, or steel, which is a very poor conductor. It has too much resistance. And pure copper, gold, silver. Silver is the best. Why? Because technically gold is, but silver dissipates the heat better. So therefore, silver has a little edge up on the gold. And you notice this in Daniel, the book of Daniel, where it gets into Nebuchadnezzar's metal man image. Head of gold, chest and arms of silver, belly of brass, and legs of iron, feet of iron mixed with clay. And these get into the arrangement of the rocky planets. Okay, and also the overall solar system. We've already covered that. I don't want to cover it again. So you see that this AI, city of AI, instructor of every artificer, this IA, they're all connected. And all these different layers of science and math and philosophy, you see how it all comes into play. And the reason I always bash hackademia, because they're hacks, is they bash the Bible. But let me tell you that what the Bible has over academics. Not all of academia are academics. Okay, a lot of them are cowards and they stay out of it. They don't want to get involved with the politics. I call the independent party the cowardcrats, because they're really Democrats, but they're cowards and they won't come out and claim to be Democrat. But that's what they are. They're fence riders, and they always lean left. They always tilt the boat left. Trump's second election proved this unanimously. Okay? So, because finally they tilted the boat to the right, which has never happened that I know of. Maybe Reagan, that was about the last time, and I don't even think that's what happened with them. I think he had such a powerful senior citizen, appeal. But I don't want to get on that road. So I think I've beat this AIA to death, but let me look at what else I got going on here. Oh, an important part of the astronomical connection is, I told you, Earth has this strange, it's like the oxygen and the 2 hydrogen for H2O. Or is it O and then 2H, H with the 2 O's? Whatever it is. I get brain fog sometimes because I'm not on subject. But anyway, you see the central position and then the 2 satellites out here in the molecule shape. So this is the very strange thing that I noticed in the Bible, is this keeps coming up. You notice Daniel's image, the legs split. So now he goes from single torso down to 2 legs that are made of what? Iron. So the belly was of brass. Now the legs of iron. And you notice you got this center position and then 2 left and rights. Okay? So this kept coming up in the biblical narrative. I'm like, what is this leading me towards noticing? And that's the importance that Mars and Venus have, the influence they have here on Earth. And it's not necessarily just a Venus connection. It's a Venus-Mercury thing. And I told you, it says about Esau, who represents what? Mars. He was red, hairy, right? And what did he hunt? Venus sun. Venus sun, venison. That was your little hint. Okay? Mars is hunting Venus. Venus is hunting Mars when she's on her period. She's Athena. Okay? So anyway, the opposite of the that end of things, and that's always the Eve, left side of the periodic table, evil, Shiva, Kali, alkali, earth metals side. The other side is what? The gold head of gold. HOG, the hog, you're pig-headed. Over here you got hypergamy. Over here you got ego. Egotistical maniac. And these people, I won't mention them by name, LeBeau, they get women to focus on, oh, the patriarchy, shut up! The patriarchy. The hypergamy end of things is way worse than the ego side. Sorry, I tapped the mic. The ego is a minor player compared to what's going on in the other end of town. But they get you to focus in on this. But the truth is that this golden image and this brass and iron, or iron and clay, it's the same thing said different ways. And when you're in the middle, it ain't good for you. Neither one of them give a shit about you. Ego don't care about you, and hypergamy don't care about you. If you're an average, typical person like I am, you're just trying to make your way through life. Yeah, these people, they're in the upper echelons crapping down on you. That is a fact. It doesn't matter which way you go. You go, oh, I'm going to side with Hillary. Oh, I'm going to side with Trump. Granted, we need to side with Trump because it's been tilted so far left for so long. The only way to right the boat is to go that way. Unfortunately, that's the way it is. And you can't blame Trump for that. Blame the coward-crats. Okay? I don't want to get into it because I'll get on my bully pulpit. Talk about the independent tards and the libertarian tards who care about smoking weed more than they do millions of people flocking their borders, taking their jobs, taking their housing, right? And bringing terrorism into the country. Oh, what? Weed's not on the bill? Oh, I'm voting for Hillary. I'm voting for Obama. What do you want? An imbecile? All right, never mind. So, this golden image is, they always talk about, oh, the golden age. It was this golden age, this gilded age. Baloney. Oh, we're heading into where Jesus comes back and it's going to be, oh, it's hunky-dory. Okay, did you read in Revelation where it says Jesus will dry their tears? Oh, yes, isn't that lovely? Why are they crying? Huh? Why are they crying? I thought it was utopia. I thought gold was going to rain from the raindrops. Dumb Christian. Dude, it's just going to be the same thing, but different. Slightly different. Oh, it's going to be a golden age. No, it ain't. You're in Egoville now. You were in Hypergamyville. Now you're in Egoville. It's not going to be a good thing for a lot of people. It's going to suck. All right? And it's going to be very intolerant. You think things are intolerant today? I got news for you. You're living in paradise. You can't make it in this world right now. You ain't never going to make it over there. Because Jesus comes back as a military dictator in a Davidic sense. He's going to be the leader that the Jews wanted Jesus to be, but he ended up not being. Because they didn't know how to read the prophecy. They got out of sync with God. And that's easy to do. The Jehovah that they were following, the Yahweh they were following, led back to the original solar arrangement when Lucifer was placed over all of God's creation as the covering cherub. That was when Lucifer was God's buddy in the Holy of Holies, known as Tritium, over fluorine, the 9. Then he fell, got lifted up in pride, and ended up over the 6 in the form of carbon as deuterium. Then he took 1/3 of the angels and fell and ended up where they are currently today. But these people in the old school system never realized, because I'm here to show you pictures, not quote scriptures. That temple graphic is pictures from scriptures. Guys, wake up. Lucifer went this way. Boink, 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 boink. Wow, 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 wow. And Adam and Eve went boink, boink, boink. And Adam and Eve, us, have the capacity to screw up and go boink, 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 back to start. And I had to come back from that, and that ain't easy when you fall to that 3rd level. Because you are praying holes through the sky like you used to, and God's like, I don't hear you. You're not singing my tune. You're not a man or a woman after my heart. I don't hear you. Your life's speaking louder than your words. Shut up and keep grinding. That treatment sucks. So then you get your life back and you start working towards things, and one day you just say, God, come on, man, you got to leave me alone. And God goes, you know what? I hear you again. I can actually hear you again. You're making sense to me. That's what I had to do. I had to go, God, I fought hard to get back here. Come on now. I had tears streaming down my face. I'm like, you got to cut me some slack. And then all of a sudden, magically, guess what? You know, you're back in the New York state of mind, right? Who was that? Ace Frehley? Back in the New York groove. So anyway, this golden age they promise. No, guys, don't buy it. They're selling you a fairy tale. So the results, no matter which way you go, are obey or die. Over here, they'll physically kill you. Over here, the church will excommunicate you. They'll banish you. And God will too. You get too close to disrespecting people over here. I knew a Christian minister who had so much power. There were people that came in and challenged him. And they were a couple. I won't say what type of couple. But their car broke down out on the highway, and the one told the other, don't get out. It's raining. It's very dangerous. And she's like, nah, 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 nah. Boom! Tractor trailer came by and took her out and supposedly decapitated her. And they had just gone nose to nose, toe to toe with this minister. There are people that have gotten so close to God and God's heart that live in the Holy of Holies that if you go near them in the wrong approach, you're actually getting toe to toe with God. Not just God. Father and Son will be very tolerant of you. You're nigh unto blasphemy of the Holy Spirit, and there is no forgiveness for that. I don't want to go down that road, but it's very true. So anyway, these two groups always have the same message. Doom and gloom, doom and gloom. Oh, the environment, the sky is falling, the sky is falling. And these people over here, oh, the golden age, the golden age. Oh, God's going to dry our little tears. Oh, you're going to love it. It's going to be great. Guys, wake up. So anyway, Lamech, this character who's like an alter ego of Abraham, you get on that La, if you take his name, you get Allah. Take the LA and reverse it. Just like you did with the AIIA. There's several people in the Bible that if you reverse that prefix to the name, and then mech, what do we know as mech? Today we say machine, mechanical, mechanism. All right? The ghost in the machine. Who's that? Lucifer. Causing problems behind the scene, throwing wrenches in your gear. Lamech represents a version of that. A carbon-based version. I told you, Lucifer took the third outside the temple. That's the alkali earth metals. But inside the holy place and the Holy of Holies, there's that 1/3 of that 6 of carbon and 1/3 of that 9 of fluorine. Lucifer has access to them. Okay, that's why God said Lucifer can appear as an angel of light. That's why these religions that bring a different gospel than the one Paul left us, said Jesus through the apostles left us this gospel. If somebody comes along and says something contrary to that gospel, that's Lucifer creeping in as an angel of light. Don't believe them. And there's a particular group of people who had an angel appear to their leader. Okay? And he started telling them things that were not true. I won't mention them. So anyway, the machine, the Mech and Lamech. By the way, I kind of got off on a tangent, but Allah in the name Lamech has to do with Lucifer at one time being God's friend. Okay? God accepted that. And that's Allah, that's Father, that form of God that is very serious. Go touch the ark, you'll die. That kind of faith, that kind of religion, doesn't tolerate, very intolerant. And they kept that. Even though God moved on from that, they never did. They're literally worshiping the old version, and that's not in God's will, because God moved on. Time moved forward, and they stayed in the past. They're stuck in Nebuchadnezzarville. They don't realize, hey, that ain't the way things are working right now. So, does that mean all the people in that religion don't understand things? No. You got to remember, Jesus said there's what's known as the law of love. And like I say, my mother, she professed Jesus as her Savior. She believed in the Holy Spirit. She didn't believe in the Holy Spirit baptism in this life. But she qualified with the bare minimum, and she kept the law of love. There's plenty of people in those organizations that keep the law of love. They don't get involved in what their leaders at the top are doing, unfortunately. And that is why those religions end up committing a lot of atrocities. And those people are technically, they have that blood on their hands, and they will answer for that. So a lot of those people, like I say, that were reached outside of the synagogues, when the early Christians went into the synagogues, big trouble. But when they talked to people in the common places and they said the commonalities and they explained the prophecies and how Jesus fulfilled those prophecies and how Jesus will return and fulfill ultimately what the Jewish people are looking for, the Messiah that they expected, they agreed with that. They're like, yeah, that definitely makes a lot of sense. So those people, a lot of them, they whisper prayers under their breath. They don't want people setting Shiva for them and casting them off from the flock, cutting them off from their church group, their temple group. But deep inside their hearts, they said, you know what? I better cover both bases. I better make sure that I don't want to piss God off. And I know my leaders are complete shit for brains. Your leaders are peckerheads at all levels. I don't care what religion. I don't care what religion you belong to. Your leaders are screw-ups of epic proportion. Some of them are barely hanging on by a shoe latchet, a thread. Okay? And because of that, a lot of these people see the wickedness that their leaders do, and they say, listen, I don't want to be part of this. And they say silent prayers inside, and they say, God, if this is you, I don't want any issues. And they fulfill the laws of love every chance they get. There's Muslims out there that out-Christian the Christians. There's Jews that out-Christian the Christians. Trust me, you think, oh no, that's not true. They're Jesus killers. You're an idiot. You're a dummy. And there's Roman Catholics like my mom that make the Protestants, who know the Bible like the back of their hand, my mom would eat beans off your head. Easily, without even trying. She wouldn't even need to stand on her mother's shoulders because her mother was twice the Christian she was. Okay, I told you at some point, I think, about the farmhouse getting ready to burn because the barn caught fire. Her mother prayed so hard that the weather pattern changed and the rain hit the house and steam came off the shingles outside the house. My mother watched the whole thing. She watched the big raindrops hitting the house, turning to steam because the house was getting ready to go. And you could go to that side of the house and the shingles were curled up and partially singed from that fire decades before. Okay. So anyway, Lamech is also a lame male. Who's a lame male in the Bible? He's also Chamel, camel. Phonetically, it's the same as camel. Chameleon means something about a lion. Ground lion. The root word for that, I believe, is Greek. But anyway, you can extrapolate a lot of things from Lamech, and they're all pertinent. And the lame male gets into Jacob when he was halt from God touching him, wrestling with God, and also Mephibosheth. Okay? So Jacob was in Genesis chapter 32, verse 31. And Mephibosheth is 2 Samuel 4, chapter 4, verse 4. And also Jesus on the cross. What happened to Jesus? He got his feet nailed together. So these all tie in together. Remember, Jesus represents all sin up on that cross. Nailed to that cross. Okay? So this is a type of God forgiving. You can't forgive the evil in Lucifer because Lucifer's hydrogen. But humans have deuterium and we're carbon. So that form of it, God can forgive. But Lucifer, never going to get it. Okay? God can forgive it at the tritium level over fluorine. Okay? Like I said, you can bounce from... We get away with a lot. We're very blessed. So anyway, Mephibosheth breaks down a lot to ME is east-west. Turn the M, you get the W. You got the number phi, 1.61802. The bow and she is the two pillars leading into the temple. Jashan and Boaz. Okay? And then the ETH possibly has something to do with Esther, Queen Esther. But Mephibosheth is basically a word that represents the periodic temple of Solomon that I show you. All right, so I'm going to get into a completely off subject, real quick breakdown of movies. Like I say, you'll see things in movies. Recently, I was watching Skyfall, James Bond. That's Thor Ragnarok, in my opinion. I can't say that I heard this from the producer. That would be a false statement. I'm telling you, in my opinion, these things. So I don't get in copyright lawsuit territory. So I noticed James Bond Skyfall, it's the same movie script as Thor Ragnarok. And where Thor is from, that's Skyfall, James Bond's estate. And it also gets into modern day issues where they're messing with the atmosphere. EMP, weapons, laser, space-based laser, weather manipulation systems. Bond is always made out to be a savior. He's .007. What's that? It's the atomic number for hydrogen. All right? He actually represents Lucifer. But this came out, I did the video concerning Neo. They did the same thing with Neo. They're like, oh, see, Neo is Jesus. No, he's not. It's a good attempt at it, but it's a veiled reference to, hey, you know, the devil is God. No, he's not. So there's mistakes they make in those movies that prove that they're trying to get you to believe that the fallen Lucifer is the risen Messiah. It's not true. I just explained why. The H1 can never receive, it's outside the temple. That's how they get their theology screwed up, and that's how they deceived the church leaders years ago. They convinced them, hey, see, when the periodic order started taking shape and somebody recognized what it was, hey, that's King Solomon's temple. They took all the church leaders and told them, hey, man, see how Lucifer is hydrogen and hydrogen is God? I just explained to you why that's not true. So Lucifer got the boot. We're in, he's out. That's why DMT tripping people hear these clockwork elves. Oh, you got to kill humans. You got to kill humans. And the guy's looking through lasers now and seeing the code go by. That's the latest breakthrough on DMT. They show a red laser and they do simulations. And they say, this is what you see when you're tripping on DMT and you look through a laser light. You see what? The code that's in the background. This is the, in my opinion, digital rain you see on the TV screens, the TV monitors, and Matrix. Okay? So they always have the heroes in threes, right? You got Bond, M, and Kincaid. And what does Kincaid mean? It means head of the quagmire, head of battle, warrior. Comes from a Gaelic word, Kincaith, or Ceanncath. Right? Notice there's a lot of words where you got the EA combination. Gaelic, that's EA. Kincaith, Ceanncath. The Ceann has the EA. What's that? Eve Adam connection. All right. By the way, he was played by Albert Finney, who played the best version of Scrooge ever. And he was in a movie about the end of slavery in Great Britain called Amazing Grace. Both those movies, if you can get the unedited version of Scrooge with Albert Finney, he actually goes to hell in that movie, but in hell it's ice cold. But in Amazing Grace, he plays the ship captain who brought the slaves over from Africa. He ended up going blind from alcoholism, and he wrote the words to the song Amazing Grace because he received forgiveness from God for being such a wicked man, because they threw live people overboard. They did wicked things on those slave ships. So anyway, there's always the three heroes, like Frodo. Frodo had three friends. And then you had Gandalf had three friends. The elf, the dwarf, and the prince. All right? In the Matrix, you had DMT, Dozer, Mouse, and Trinity. All right? Then you had Neo, Morpheus, and Trinity. Then you had Smith, Jones, and Brown, the bad guys. Okay? So anyway, that's Skyfall. What is the key to Skyfall? They have this secret door that they go into. Okay? Where's that secret door? It's the lanthanide and actinide series. And where do they end up? Outside, in the church, way off in the distance. It's called the priest's hole. Where else do we see this in a movie? Looper. The little kid takes the little frog, creak, 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 and he tells him go hide down there, and he shows him, hey, my grandfather built this. That's the well at Behurim from 2 Samuel chapter 17. 2 Samuel chapter 17, verse 18. The well at Behurim is the element barium, which right next to barium is what? Lanthanide and actinide. And they lead to the lower third level of the Noah's Ark. Layering of the Bible, layering of the periodic table. Okay? And notice all the people in that movie, Looper. They all have biblical names. Gee, I wonder why. Who are they? Joe, Joseph, Sarah, Sid, not biblical, but I could really dig on that one for a while. Abe, Jesse, Seth, and then the girl's Beatrix, the French-speaking girl. And where's Beatrix? It's Bellatrix. It's Orion's belt. You think there's something there? I do. All right, so anyway, just going to leave you with those. The AI, the IA, artificial intelligence. Where is it? It's here. It's not here. God built the threshing floor of data is where the temple was constructed. Right? This up here, God puts a lot of, and that's another reason why God forgives carbon. Carbon represents your heart. Hydrogen 1, protium, sits over lithium. Lilith, Eve, when she fell, they say, oh, it's Adam's second wife. No, it's the same wife disobeying God's really good advice. Don't do this. Oh, I know better than you, crunch. Here, try some so I don't get in trouble alone. Oh, okay. You got some nice jugs there, Eve. Duh. But anyway, God's not going to forgive that. Okay? And the only exception to that is when there's a baby involved. All right? And that's going out. That's not coming in. You ever notice that? The baby's going out, bro. Not being allowed back in. When you see a complete, as an old Army Ranger used to say, a goat blank, begins with the letter F, right? When you see that, that's a porno. That's not someone making babies. You're outside of God's will. All right? Trying to be Mr. Stud. Putting the baby batter on the outside, not the inside. Yeah, that's not God. All right? When it's on the inside and it's going out, that's different. But all this other craziness you see, the mashugana, the bizarre behavior humans do sexually, yeah, that ain't of God. Right? That stays on the outside. It's not allowed in. It's not part of it. All right, so we'll leave you with that, and we'll wrap it up. Thank you for tuning in. Peace out. All right, thanks for tuning in. Don't forget to hit like, subscribe, and check us out in the links and descriptions below.